guys, this is Justine Calderwood, certified birth healing specialist at the Healing Physical Therapy and women's health physical therapist, and I'm here today. We're talking about diastasis recti. I see this quite often with my postpartum moms, and I want to tell you just a little bit today about what it is, how it affects the body, and how it can develop in the body. And I'm also going to teach you how I check for it, so you can do a quick check at home. So basically, what is diastasis recti? So this happens a lot of times during pregnancy. Diastasis recti is where the abdominal muscles start to separate at the linea alba, or basically the soft connective tissue that holds the abdominals together. So if I stand up here, if you can imagine just the rectus abdominis running along the front of your abdomen, as baby grows, those muscles can start to get overstretched, and it's like it pulls on where they stay connected in the front, okay? So if you've noticed this at all, sometimes moms start to notice it even during pregnancy when they're getting up out of bed or they're moving around and they raise their head up, or they go to get out of bed, they see this kind of doming or this coning of the abdomen. It's kind of like there's this little alien baby inside, right? And it's trying to get out. That's a good description. But this can happen also, I know it can happen even with, say, weightlifting. If you're not activating the inner core muscles, it can also happen with that. But I see it, me personally, I see it most often postpartum, okay? Meaning after babies. So another thing that can contribute to diastasis recti, not only from baby getting bigger. So if you can imagine, like if I had a zip up jacket on, so if my back was really tight, so imagine baby growing, and what happens is the ribs start to open up to allow baby a little bit more room, and the back starts to arch, okay? So you see this a lot with pregnant moms, where they have this rib thrust and the back is arched, okay? And that happens long enough where the back starts to get tight, right? And the obliques also get tight. So you can imagine if I had a zipper here, it's almost like that is pulling from the back side, okay? And keeping this abdominals from coming together or staying together, okay? So overactive oblique muscles can also contribute to this. So even after pregnancy, where baby is no longer there, mom's still stuck in this position, and the oblique muscles are actually overactive or working stronger, trying to support the body, where they're more of the mover muscles, okay? And so they do a lousy job of trying to support, but as they stay tight and overactive in relation to the lower abdominals that support, they actually take over from those stabilizing muscles, okay? So what else can contribute? A quick weight gain can also contribute to the abdominal muscles separating, okay, which clearly happens during pregnancy, but it can happen outside of pregnancy as well. So, and then also just poor pressure management of the lower abdominals. So this is why this could happen even with, say, weightlifting, is because instead of engaging the pelvic floor muscles and the transverse abdominis muscles to support the back and the pelvis, what can happen is that people are relying more on the mover muscles like the rectus and the obliques, okay? And those core muscles that should be engaging kind of fail, and so we're getting an increased pressure downward, okay, and outward, and that puts stress on those muscles from the front, okay? So having diastasis recti can contribute to things like I mentioned earlier. You might notice a doming or a coning if you go to get up out of bed, or maybe you're doing sit-ups or like a plank position, so you kind of glance down, you're in a plank and you glance down and you notice that it's coning. I've had women mention that sometimes they notice this during sex with certain positions as well, okay? You might notice that you have some incontinence or leaking, accidental loss of urine or feces, because again of that pressure management. It starts to put pressure down into the pelvic floor, and if the pelvic floor is weak, it's kind of an indirect thing, right? But we're not managing the pressure and engaging the inner core, and so it starts to put pressure down through the bladder, and the rectum. Here's my pelvis here. So it starts to put pressure down, and these muscles down here can't handle it, and we kind of get this, oops, okay? You might also notice some pelvic pressure. So I have moms that tell me, you know, not only are they worried about their core, but they're having some heaviness in the vaginal area or the pelvic area, okay? You might notice an instability of your core. I think the moms that I talk to, sometimes just intuitively they know their core is not strong like it needs to be. It's not the same as it was pre-pregnancy, okay? They can't run like they wanted, like they previously could. They can't bike, they can't lift weights, they're afraid to go back to exercising. Intuitively, they just know that something is different and they want to get this checked out, okay? You might notice pelvic pain. So I have moms, again, kind of an indirect thing, where they're having pain in the pelvic area, maybe pain with intercourse, okay, as an indirect thing with the diastasis. And again, core instability or weakness, just feeling like you can't quite rely on your back and your core to keep your body stable and to enjoy the workouts that you want. So how do we check for this? Well, I'm going to show you. I'm going to bring my daughter over here. She has not had a baby, thankfully, so she's so young. Hopefully it's a long time. But I'm going to have her come over, and she's going to lie down so I can show you how I check this as a therapist. Okay. And you can also do this quick check at home. Okay, so she's going to lie down on her back, face up. And what we're going to need to do is just, we're going to see, we want the belly button, okay, exposed. So with this, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take 2 fingers side by side, and I'm going to place them right at the belly button. So I'm checking for several things. One is here in just a little bit, she's going to just lift her head up. She's going to start to lift her head up, and I'm going to be feeling for what happens at my fingers. So do they stay there? Do they kind of get pushed up towards the ceiling, which that's what we want. We want that gap to close up if she does have a gap. If they dive down in deeper, that tells me that is not closing up, right? So I'm checking for approximation, okay, on can I feel if those muscles are staying closed side by side, if there's a gap between them, and if I'm diving down. I'm also checking, so that's one thing, approximation. I'm checking for depth. How far down do I go, if I do go, okay? I can also check for length. I'm going to check above and below the belly button. And so I'm going to check basically a rough estimate of how long it is, okay? And also, so depth and the width. So how many fingers can I fit in there, okay? Ideally, we want to be 2 or less, okay? So what you can do here on yourself, you can do this, or have a partner if you want. So I'm just going to put 2 fingers side by side right at her belly button. Taryn, I'm going to have you go ahead and lift up your head, and you know, she's a 14-year-old girl, hasn't had a baby. I cannot even fit my finger in there, so that's good, okay? So then what I'm going to do is go 2 inches above the belly button. Again, 2 fingers side by side, and I'm going to check. Go ahead and lift head up. Good. Again, I don't feel anything. I'm not diving down, but this is what you want to check for. If you start out at 2 fingers and you're like, wow, I can fit 3, 4, 5 fingers in there, that's an issue, okay? If you're diving down in and you're starting here, but you're going to those knuckles, that's also a problem, okay? And that's something you want to get checked out by a pelvic floor physical therapist. And I'm going to come down 2 inches below the belly button. So go ahead and lift up, Taryn. And again, I'm not feeling anything there. But this is a really great quick check that you can do. And if you are finding that that you're concerned about this, definitely reach out. I can answer any questions that you have, but I highly encourage you to get this looked at by a professional so that you can be guided through a customized treatment plan, because this isn't just about I need to strengthen, okay? A lot of times we need to release the low back and the oblique muscles so we can let those muscles approximate. There are releases that we can do to the abdomen, specifically the rectus, but also learning how to manage pressure. And that's something that, you know, oftentimes you need to work one-on-one with somebody with that. I know there's a lot of programs out there that walk moms through rehabilitation, and there's some really good programs out there. But I really recommend getting this looked at and doing a customized plan, okay? So next week, I'm going to be doing another live video at 6:30 Mountain Time. On Tuesdays, they're going to be now. And I'm going to tell you 3 tips on how you can actually start to treat this, okay? So you can tune in then. By all means, if you have questions, let me know. You can run to my website, healingspotpt.com. I have an ultimate postpartum guide. It dives in a little bit deeper with the diastasis recti, as well as some other common issues that I help moms with during the postpartum period, okay? So thank you for tuning in, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye.